And okay, we're going to start. We're going to start with set of instructions and then get down with what we're going to be cooking. So to begin, welcome all of y'all. This is my 7th live cooking session since the lockdown, and it's been really fun, interesting, and lots of feedback and lots of improvements and lots of fun things going on. And thank you for joining, and really excited to conduct today's session. Pan Asian is one of my favorite cuisines, and I love making it at home. So here today, of course, apart from the dessert, which is not Pan Asian at all, I wanted to make something Asian. Then I thought it's like too simple, and it would be like they use a lot of tapioca and coconut milk and things like that, and also use a lot of steamed rice and buns, and that would get complex for a long session. So I said, okay, let me hold on to the dessert and keep it something fun and simple, which will blend with Pan Asian, and hence the healthier version of the mousse, which is made with yogurt and no eggs. Okay, so that's that. So welcome once again. And so I'm just going to quickly run over some of the instructions. I'm going to be keeping all of you all muted for the parts where I'm going to be cooking and we're going to be doing things together. So for those of you who are going to be cooking along, ensure that you have all your ingredients ready and chopped and kept. And my suggestion is that for the spring rolls, I really suggest that you actually watch how I do it first before you start making it along with me, because for those of you who have not made spring rolls before, it's a good idea to watch first and then make it, because then you'll learn better. So then, it'll stay in your mind, and then you can, once the session is over, you can go and make it. So that's my suggestion. So so if you're never made spring rolls, so just hold on, just watch. We will begin with making our mousse, and then we will go into making a sweet and spicy chili sauce, which is fresh and homemade and not added sugar, but we're going to be making it with honey, and of course a noodle bowl. So along the way, I'm going to talk to you about the various flavor quotients that go into an Asian cuisine, and there are different regions around Asia, which is Pan Asia, right? So we're going to be speaking about each one of them. So unlike Indian cuisine, a Pan Asian cuisine, sort of like Indian cuisine, Pan Asian also uses, Pan Asian also uses a lot of spices, but a lot of condiments as well. And they have a lot of ready condiments available in the market, just like our garam masalas and chola masalas, which are our mix masalas that we get so readily, and many of us make it at home, but you get these ready. So similarly in Pan Asian cuisines, a lot of these condiments are very easily available from your in fact, the chili paste that we're going to be making today is called the sambal paste, which is also available. And the soy sauce and the vinegar, they typically use not the synthetic vinegar which you get, but typically the rice vinegar or any natural vinegars is what they use. Okay, so rice vinegar is very healthy, and apple cider vinegar as well. It's good for the gut, it's considered to be healthy. Similar effects as yogurt has to our gut, right? So it's considered to be very digestive, helps in digestion, acidity, and lots of different things. And they also, and coconut, spring onions, galangal ginger is used in some places, classic ginger is used in some. The herbs are typically spring onion greens versus basil. You can call it kaffir lime leaves, not Thai basil. It's called the kaffir lime leaves. Is also predominantly used in some regions in China, not as much. But when you go into Vietnam and when you go into Burma, when you go into interior Burma, and these are used. And of course, one more ingredient is coconut milk, right? So coconut is very widely used across all regions, from your Vietnamese, your Burma, Thai, Indonesia, including Chinese doesn't use coconut as much as at all. Like Chinese has various different cuisines under itself. There's Sichuan, there's Hunan, there's Cantonese. There's 8 different Chinese cuisines in the Chinese territory. So just like in Karnataka, you would find 5 different cuisines like Udupi, Mangalorean, And then if you go to the north, you'll find Lucknow, MP. Yeah, there's lots of different types of cuisines. You go to Gujarat, you will find Kathiawadi, and then there is Surti cuisine. I mean, there are different regions in Gujarat, in each one of the flavor quotients like that. Similarly in China, Burma as well, and Vietnam and Indonesia, very small. But as you go deeper into the villages, each one of them comes up with their own flavors. But today's session is sort of a mix and match of all of them to suit our palates, and that's predominantly how we Indians have sort of adapted to Chinese, Pan-Asian, I can call it. And so that's a little bit of that. So the way I go about studying every cuisine is ensuring that I study every ingredient of the cuisine. So if I get a chili paste, if it's a Szechuan paste, or if it's a chili sauce, or if it's, I try to get, ingredients which are, or when I travel around, I try to taste those ingredients separately and individually to actually decipher what is it that goes into them. So that way we understand what are the core ingredients that go in, whether it's garlic, ginger, what are the flavors, chili, hot, what is it that goes in, acidity with vinegar, right? So these, that way we learn about them. Smell and taste is one of the things that I use to actually study the base, dive deep down into the basics of the cuisine. And I suggest that each one of you, a lot of times we just get all these sauces and just put it in. But let me tell you, when you get a chance, put a teaspoon of soy sauce on the plate and just taste it and see what does soy sauce have in it, right? So and just put in fact, that's pretty much how we sort of understand and learn ingredients, and in fact, Indian spices and condiments as well. The more we keep smelling it, the more we understand the freshness, which is better, which tastes nicer, which brand is good, whether should we make it at home, and things like that, right? So, so that's that, and so yeah, so so that's a little bit of Pan-Asian. And going back to our instructions is that I have a 2-camera setup. I'm going to be sharing the second camera right now. So those of you who are on mobile should be able to switch between the second camera and the first camera, and then you should see. And if you're on desktop, there's something called view options. You can click and you can choose the side-by-side view as soon as I share the screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen. I'm going to open up the Q&A very soon. So the first thing we're going to do is the Greek yogurt mousse, okay? And I'm going to speak to you a little bit about mousse. It's a very French dish, and mousse is a French word as well, and that's the second camera for you. And if you go into view options, you should be able to see like a side-by-side view. Okay, so great. Let me check so let me take a few, about 2 minutes of our Q&A time. I'm going to unmute. I'm going to sort of share access to unmute yourself. And the way we would sort of take questions is not everybody doesn't start talking. There is a raise a hand feature in Zoom. So you would sort of use that feature. Please check. Each one of you might have a different configuration based on the type of a device you're using. So I don't know where exactly it would be. There's a raise a hand feature. So please raise your hand and we'll go with the questions then and there. So we're going to be beginning with the chocolate mousse. I'm going to unmute and allow you all to ask questions. We'll take about a minute of questions. If any of you have any questions, and we will sort of get to the cooking. Great. So I guess we are all in good shape. There's no questions. Nobody's raised any hand. So let's actually get.
Archana, I had a question.
Yeah. So who's this? If you can raise your hand, like as an.
Sure, I have raised my hand.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This was for the spring rolls, as you said that we should make it later. So even the filling, we do it later, or we do that with you?
So you can do the filling with me. That should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only filling it. Okay, fine. Only the frying and all we do later, you see.
Yeah, the making of the spring roll, the pancake, the crepe, that is the wrapper. I want you all to watch me, because if you're going to be doing it simultaneously, then it might be confusing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Jasmine, you had a question? Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask that you said cream will do, But to make the double boiler, so I can use the glass ball on the top of hard anodized ball.
Yes. Glass bowl will also work. Not a problem at all. So
Okay.
because the double boiler is this. So you set up a pan with water, and then you put another pan over it as long as it's able to rest. The reason I like to put a saucepan is the handle rests on the double boiler and it becomes easier. But if you have to hold the glass with a dekchi, so then you can hold it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And Ambika, you had a question?
Yeah. Archana, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions actually. First thing is that, like you mentioned that we have to deep fry the spring rolls.
Yes.
Can we also shallow fry them if we don't want to deep fry?
Yes, you can. The crispiness will not be as well. You'll still need to add a little bit of oil.
Yeah, I mean, a little oil and shallow frying is fine, right?
Yeah. You can do it.
The next question that I have is there may be some vegetables that may not be available and all. So will you also be providing the alternative options for the same?
You can definitely message me post the session, and I can provide you the alternative options of what can go. Like for the spring roll, it's classic, right? So what are the vegetables which we have? It's finely chopped carrot, cabbage.
It's getting difficult to find these red peppers and zucchini and
yeah. So even I've been hunting for zucchini for a while, so I'm wondering what I'm going to do for the next session, but we'll figure that out. And I think I might have to change that for the next session, something that I'm thinking. But red peppers, it's not available. Green peppers will always work. And for the noodle bowls, you can use sort of any vegetable, like green beans. It's all about how we cut the vegetables as well. You can use green beans, you can use carrots. You can even add cabbage, cut into big chunks into the noodle bowl as well, which they do very often. They add bok choy. So bok choy is a very Chinese cabbage. And so we can add our Indian cabbage as well, which is cut into bigger chunks. So that can be added into the noodle bowl. Spring rolls is fairly simple. I've used the Indian vegetables. And then you said zucchini and broccoli. I didn't get zucchini and broccoli as well. And I didn't get tofu as well. And I didn't want to make homemade tofu, which is made from soy milk, which is similar to paneer, right? So I didn't bother to do that. So I just have some carrots and bell peppers with me. And I also got some orange zucchini I managed to get. So yeah, it's fine. So we can sort of work around. They also use eggplant as well. So in fact, you can roast your eggplants and cut it in like wedges and then add it. So they use a lot of eggplants, Asian cuisine. If you're vegetarian, if you're non-vegetarian, you can always add your chicken or other dishes.
Okay. So the last doubt that I have is it necessary that we always double boil the chocolate? Because I always find it convenient to just boil it in the microwave, like just heat it for 30 seconds and stir it.
So you can do that. The reason I'd like we use a double boiler is we don't allow the chocolate to get too hot for a mousse, because I'm going to be stirring it into the cold yogurt, or if it's a mousse is typically made with egg whites and whipped cream. So the moment you add a hot mixture and sort of blend into that, then your mousse will sort of rest and settle down. It will not have that aeration. Of course, for this one, most often, that's what I've noticed. So just to avoid overheating, we melt the chocolate in the double boiler. And when we add cream, we want to ensure that it sort of blends well into it, nothing else. So, and as long as you can cool it down before you mix it into the mousse mixture, then you're good to go. So you don't have to use a double boiler. If you melt it in the microwave, it's fine. Yeah.
Archana, I have a question.
Yes.
What is this chocolate that you would like us to use? Is it a cooking chocolate, or is it a normal milk chocolate?
Yes, I see your Sudhir Sethi, but Shalini Sethi. Yes, correct. So to answer your question, I don't use cooking chocolates, which is the Morde chocolates which you get. Of course, I think some of the Morde chocolates are okay. But I prefer using the really, really high quality, like Boneville has 80, I think 60% or 50%, anything above 55% dark chocolate in them is good. If you can get an 80% dark chocolate variety, that is even more better because it'll add a good dense texture. So milk chocolates are different from dark chocolates. Dark chocolates have 80% or 50, anything more than 55% of cocoa in them is considered to be in the dark chocolate. Milk chocolates usually have much, much less. They have more milk and condensed milk and sugars and just a dash of cocoa to sort of give it that color and flavor. So milk chocolates are a little more made differently from dark chocolates. Yeah.
That's what even I thought, but I saw it on Amazon and it actually said dark chocolate, dark milk chocolate, and
that's by Amul, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember the brand, so that's why the confusion. You know, what can one use? Okay,
got it. So yeah, so milk, I would avoid anything which has milk mentioned into it whenever a requirement for dark chocolate arises. Great. So Ivan, Evelyn Sani, you had a question. Yeah.
मंजू, एक्चुअली आप मैंने पूछा था कि डार्क चॉकलेट की रिप्लेस पे मैं क्या यूज कर सकती हूँ.
हाँ, so you have ना, आपके पास डार्क चॉकलेट है, खराब नहीं होता है डार्क चॉकलेट. एक बार टेस्ट करके देखिए.
हाँ, मीठा है.
नहीं डार्क चॉकलेट.
कौन सा वाला?
वो जो आपने बताया था पैकेट में.
एक्चुअली उसकी डेट निकल गई है.
आप कब खरीदा आपने उसको?
ये 5-6 months हो गए हैं.
और फ्रिज में रखा था क्या आपने? फ्रिज में
बाहर.
अच्छा, जब भी हम, that's another thing that I do. जब भी हम लोग, if I buy some chocolate or I open cocoa powder, immediately put it into the refrigerator because you don't know when you're going to use it. So then it doesn't get spoiled. So right now your option is cocoa. Hot chocolate is not a very good option because it has a lot of milk in it. I will not know. Yeah. If you can taste your chocolate and then check if it's like in good condition, then you can use it. Otherwise, you watch this recipe and when you get the chocolate, then you can make it. Another option, as I said, is you can puree mango and then add it into this yogurt and it will become like a yogurt mousse. So that is something that you can do as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And Rohit Singhal, I know
Dipali.
Someone else. Dipali, yes, hi.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
I just want to know, instead of model, can we use a kuvacha also?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. For sure.
Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am?
Sorry?
Can you hear me, ma'am? I'm Evelyn.
Hello.
1 second, please. We're finishing one person, and then after that, I will take the other. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if I'm going to use a kuvacha, I use the same quantity as I'm using a modern dark chocolate.
Correct. Yes.
Or does the quantity differ?
It depends upon the strength of your kuvacha. What does it say?
Hello.
Yeah. Yes. Who's this? I'm not able to. If you all want to ask.
Only my son's name written on that.
Okay. So so use the same quantity. It shouldn't. Just give it a taste and see how intense it is, and then you should be able to judge whether it's nice and dark. It should have a slight bitterness and slightly sweet. Yeah.
Ma'am, can I put my question now? I'm Evelyn.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, ma'am. So you're suggesting that we should not use Morte?
No, you can use Morte. Yeah.
We can. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
That's it. And I think
Morte
we
is
should
just
go.
a brand. It's just a brand. Yeah.
And I think we should go ahead with the class rather than we can put the questions after the class is finished. Otherwise, it will be never ending.
Yeah,
sure. Let's do that.
Archana, I feel like you take questions later on so that other people can relate properly.
Done. So we're gonna take questions in 2 parts. So I'm going to mute everybody now, and so let's get started. And I hope all of you have your ingredients ready for the chocolate. I have my Greek yogurt sitting in the refrigerator. So I'm just going to let it be, and I'm going to show you how I made that in just a bit, right? So the first thing that I have is some dark chocolate over here, and also 1 second, yeah, mute all. Okay, great. So just give me a second. I'm just putting this in place. Great. So I have some dark chocolate here. I have sugar, which is going to be added into my yogurt, and I have some extra chocolate, which is for grating and garnishing, which you're going to be using later. And this is vanilla extract, and this is cream. So double boiler is a great method that someone suggested. You can microwave it, but if you need to sort of melt any chocolate. So this is the one I'm going to be making now is called the ganache, and ganache is extremely versatile. It can be added into, it can be made into an icing for a cake as well. So once you make a nice thick ganache, then you can allow it to thicken up and then rest. And once it thickens up after you sort of mix the cream and chocolate, then you can put it as an icing over cake, and it tastes really good. And ganaches are used to also make mousses. And so this is exactly what we're going to do today. And mousses are typically, mousse is essentially a French word, which means foam, right? It has actually very different meaning called scum, but a very, very old and ancient meaning. But now it's called a foam. So anything that has a lot of foam and air built into it. Mousses are typically often made with egg whites, which are beaten until they're nice and fluffy and has stiff peaks. And to that, we actually add in a cream, which is also beaten into stiff peaks along with some sugar. And finally, we melt the chocolate and sort of fold it into the mousse to make a chocolate mousse. Today, we're going to be making a yogurt mousse. Yogurt mousses are, the egg mousses are very light as well. For yogurt mousses are much more indulging, which means it's much more lighter. You can keep having a little more every time, and it tastes really nice. The aeration is not as much, but it will taste really nice with the combination of chocolate and cream as well. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have my double boiler over here. Double boiler is a method where we melt chocolate so that it doesn't heat up too much and get burnt, right? So, and because depending upon the type of chocolate you use, this is a dark chocolate, but depending on the type of chocolate, sometimes the dark chocolates can tend to get very, it can tend to get burnt and brittle after they get melted. So to avoid that texture, we ensure that we use a double boiler. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the chocolate into this. And after that, add in the cream into this as well. And we're going to melt the chocolate until it becomes nice, smooth, and creamy. So we'll just get that done, okay? And I'm just going to get a ladle and keep mixing it. So typically the water should have been boiling. I'm hoping the water would start boiling very quickly. And then you sort of put in your milk chocolate in there, cream and chocolate in there. But however, so one of you asked whether we can use a substitute for cream. A lot of people use milk as well to melt it, and some people use butter. But since we're making a mousse, we are not going to be using butter. So we are going to be using just cream or milk. And milk will be pretty much in the same proportion. So just keep stirring it as it melts, okay? So it'll get melted, and if you want to continue to melt in a microwave, you can, but ensure that it cools down before you actually add it into the yogurt mixture. This will take, once the water boils, the melting actually happens very, very quickly. Okay, so the next is, while it is melting, I'm going to get a large mixing bowl, and we're going to beat in our yogurt, okay? And I'm going to get the yogurt here. Okay, I think I can beat it in this itself. It should be good. Or maybe not. So this is a yogurt, hung yogurt, which I have, and I'm going to show it to you guys. This is, they actually, in the Middle East, they actually call it cheese. It's called the labna, which they flavor it with garlic and salt, and they serve it. And this is when it's really thick and creamy, it becomes like a cheese type of consistency, and it tastes really good. This is really, really versatile. You can make a lot of different things with it. If you need to know how to make a hung yogurt, it's really simple. So I'm going to show you that in just a bit. So what I typically do is to make hung yogurt, you need to ensure that you have like a wide mesh type of strainer, and you place it over a large bowl underneath, which is going to collect the whey for you. And and then over this, you would sort of add like a muslin cloth, which I'm going to get. And you put in a muslin cloth or a handkerchief or a chief cotton cloth, right? So cotton handkerchief will work. And place it above this and put the yogurt. And for it to not become sour, and all the whey will collect down, and the yogurt will and the cheese will all get collected here. And for it to not become soft, you need to put it into the refrigerator for close to about 48 hours. This was sitting for about 3 days. I just removed it this morning. And hence it's really thick and nice, okay? Great, so I'm just gonna keep this to the side. And so the cheese is not cheese, the chocolate is melting. And I hope you can see it. So this is perfect. So now at this stage, once it begins to melt, you want to ensure that you don't expose it to too much heat at this stage. You don't want the chocolate to come to a boil. You sort of lift it up a little bit and see if it melts. If all the chocolate is able to melt in that heat as well, because I do not want the chocolate to become hot, because I'm going to be mixing it into this cold yogurt, which we're going to beat it up with some sugar and vanilla. Okay. So just keep stirring it. And I've actually lifted off the pan, and it's no longer sitting in the pan. So now when you actually touch this chocolate, it will not be hot. It might be very, very lukewarm. And that's the advantage of using a double boiler. And you get a very creamy ganache. I might have some cranberry pieces in here because I didn't get, I had one of them, which was a dark chocolate cranberry. And I guess I might find some cranberry and it might not be as smooth. But if you're using plain dark chocolate, it should be really smooth. I'm just going to turn this off. This is done. So we'll take it off the stove and then beat it. So once you notice that 90% of the chocolate is melted, take it off the stove and then beat it up. And this is like a nice, smooth, thick ganache. So when you and this becomes a great icing, okay? And in the previous class, someone asked me how to make icing. And this is one of the healthier icings that I like to use instead of using butter and sugar, because chocolate and cream make a delicious icing as well. And if you want to make it more dilute, you can add a little more cream and it will become like a chocolate sauce for your ice creams and desserts. So this looks perfect, okay? So this has to become nice and smooth and all the chocolate should be melted. So that's it. I'm touching it. It's very, very, it's in fact less than lukewarm, which is just perfect, okay? Next step is into a large mixing bowl. Now that our chocolate is ready, I'm going to go ahead and add in my Greek yogurt. Just going to press it down, okay, a little bit. I'm also going to be using a hand mixer to sort of beat it. Let me just see that. Just connect my hand mixer. It just went down, just coming. Great. So we're going to add in the vanilla extract, a teaspoon of vanilla, okay? And we'll add in some sugar. Remember the dark chocolate also has sweet. I've just added 1/4 cup of sugar, which is powdered, okay? Regular sugar, which I just powdered and not icing sugar. And you have to be very careful when you're whipping yogurt. Unlike cream, yogurt when exposed to too much heat can become you can say looser, right? So we need to ensure that we beat it just enough to give it that right aeration. You can also use a hand whisk. You get hand whisks like this and sort of beat it up really well as well. Or you can use a hand mixer. Hand mixers are very useful at home to sort of do it. Keep it at the lowest speed and to sort of beat this up. You just want to ensure that the powdered sugar is well combined, and we don't want to beat the yogurt too much, okay? As long as you can make it nice and fluffy, that's just about good enough, right? So this is just perfect. That's it. And once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and add this chocolate into this. This is one of the most simplest desserts you can make. It tastes absolutely wonderful, and I would say part healthy as well, right? So, and in fact, I have also tried. If you don't want to add sugar, you can also add honey. The only it will not alter the consistency. You have to add not a quarter cup of honey, maybe about 3 tablespoons of honey would be good enough. And sort of beat it in. The honey taste and flavor will not come at all. It will sort of blend well with the chocolate and vanilla, and it'll get evened out. So that is something that you can do if you don't want to be using sugar. Okay, so that's it. So just gently, and then I'm not going to be beating it too much because you don't want it to lose its aeration and then get heated up too much, right? The yogurt. So notice how fluffy it is, and this is exactly how I want it to be. And you want to ensure the chocolate is covering every part of the yogurt and it's all well combined. And just one more beat. Just keep turning the bowl like that so that it becomes very, very easy to sort of beat instead of using your hand to move it around. So the moment you notice that it has got some nice, it holds itself up firm like this, it's good enough. And then the moment you see that there is no yogurt, you can see around, then this is done. Okay, one last beat, and you should be okay. So that's good. Just going to take this out and keep it to the side. We're done with this completely. Great. So now that this is done, we'll just keep this to the side as well. So now it's time to plate them. So there are multiple things that you can do. You can either put them in small martini glasses or margarita glasses, cocktail glasses as they call it, or wine glass for that matter, if it's like a small glass portion of it, or you can put them in juice glasses as well, or you can also put it in ice cream bowls. So these are very large juice glasses, you know, I mean, I suggest put it in smaller portions. You should at least get 8 small juice glasses. This is 6. Only 4 of them would fill with this because these are larger ones. So I suggest put it in small ones where small shot glasses, because it is just perfect to have small portions, and you'll be really satisfied with the taste of the mousse, right? So we're just going to take a spoon and then spoon this into the glass, and then finally put a shaving of the chocolate on the top, and mousse is done. It's really simple, isn't it? Great. And you can use your fingers to sort of spread it, or you can use a toothpick to spread it. So I'm not filling it up to the brim. I'm just going to fill it up just sort of 3/4 way through, right? Yeah. And let's just fill it up, and then after that, I'll show you how to shape them. So the important thing is the yogurt should not be sour. If the yogurt is sour, then you would feel that the mousse is a little bit sour. And so that's the trick about making the yogurt mousse, that ensuring that the yogurt is not sour. Okay, so as long as it's not sour and it's got a very balanced taste and flavor, you should be good. There. Just gonna wash my hands. Okay, so that's 4, and I'll get a 5th one. So if, as I said, if it was a smaller glass, you would get close to about 6 to 8. And that's, I think 8 would be a perfect amount of size and portions for all of us. And it's just the right amount of serving as well. Okay. So now let's go into grating our chocolate. So grating chocolates is a lot of fun, and then decorating it. This is dark chocolate again. It adds a lot of character to the dessert. So for example, if you're using this and you have a nice ice cream bowl and you've sort of put it into that, a good way is to ensure that the chocolate is soft, and then use like a peeler and just peel it around the edge of the chocolate, and then you would get a really nice grate. Okay, so notice a ribbon that you get, and you can actually put these ribbons directly on top of the chocolate, and it'll taste really nice. And you can also, after this, add in mint. The important thing about when you're using a peeler to make ribbons out of the chocolate needs to be on room temperature. So I actually removed it from the refrigerator. The class started at 4, and I removed it from the refrigerator at 3, and it's about 4:35 now. So close to about 1.5 hours. Definitely should be at room temperature. Just ensure that the place that you're in is, if it's too humid, and you can judge that. So you don't want the chocolate to be melting outside. And a great way to add designs to your cakes. If you're making cakes, if you're making a ganache and then spreading it over your cake, and you can actually, make ribbons out of the chocolate and then add it on top of the cake. I mean, mousse or a dessert or a cake, right? So even ice creams for that matter. Children would love it. We too. Great. So this is good. And that's it. So we're done with, I'm just going to leave the other part, and we're done with the chocolate mousse. It was really simple. I think I just took close to about 10 minutes to make it if we have all the ingredients ready. Making the chocolate mousse is absolutely simple, isn't it? So I'm just going to put this back in the refrigerator and maybe open up for some questions if any of you have, and then we'll go on to making the real Asian cuisine. Okay, so I'm going to refrigerate this now. I'm going to put this chocolate back in the refrigerator as well, and then we can take in the questions. Let me just open it up for questions while I'm refrigerating it. So let me know if any of you have any questions on this mousse, about the consistency of the cocoa and everything. Yeah. Please raise your hand. Ambika, Archana? Yes.
Archana, you told me that, we can also make mango mousse with it if chocolate isn't available. So can you just tell me how do we do it? I mean, instead of adding chocolate, just add the pureed mango, that's it?
Yeah, so when you're making the mango mousse, a good idea, the chocolate gives that nice density and creaminess. If you know how to beat your cream, so you need to also make a whipped cream along with the yogurt. Just a little bit of whipped cream would help. Otherwise,
Okay.
just adding it directly to the yogurt also works, but it'll become Shrikand really. But
Okay.
but if you really wanted to get that mousse-like texture, then whipping the cream until it becomes stiff peaks along with 2 tablespoons of icing sugar, about half cup of cream with 2 tablespoons of icing sugar. Whip it up. Icing sugar is a good sugar because it also has a little bit of starch to sort of hold it. And whip it up until you get soft, stiff peaks. And once that happens, you can and then add in the mango, fold in the mango, don't beat it in, fold in the mango puree, and then add it into the yogurt.
Okay, and now for the decorations, for the garnishing, you've used the chocolate shavings here. But what I have generally noticed is that like mango and chocolate doesn't go together. So what can we use as a garnishing?
Strawberries. For mango? So if you have the berries go very, very well with chocolate. So when strawberries are in season, anything that is tart, right? So strawberries go well with chocolate.
Mango, right?
Along with mango, yes, correct. So along with mango, you can add chopped mangoes. You can also add chili powder to your mango and to give it that additional heat. And it brings in a great taste. Like you have chili chocolate, you can also have a chili mango mousse, which makes it really, really nice. Which is nothing but adding a very strong portion of chili powder. I typically like to use Andhra chili powder or sometimes a smoked paprika as well, and that works too.
Okay.
So on top of the mangoes, So
can
mangoes,
we also add some blueberries at times? Maybe blueberry and mango go together? I'm not sure. So I haven't tried.
No, I haven't tried it as well, but I would think so mangoes itself are a little tart, so another tart would be, I think, maybe just whipped cream and chopped it up with more mangoes, maybe almond slivers, slivered almonds, maybe to add to the crunch, would also go well. Slivered almonds.
Thank you.
So ma'am, can I ask now, please?
Who's this?
Evelyn.
Yes.
What do you recommend for the mousse? Which one is a better idea, yogurt or whipped cream? Which has a more like a better
the mousse type of
consistency?
consistency. So if you're using whipped cream, you would definitely need, if you use eggs, then you definitely need to use eggs. Just whipped cream will not be enough to give it that density. Egg whites. Okay, so
I don't use eggs. No, I don't want to use.
So then you can use just whipped cream. Some people also use agar to make it like a mousse which has gelatin, but most often mousses.
No, in the market. Okay, in the market, what we get is it with yogurt or is it with the whipped
it depends
cream?
upon which market do you go to. So a lot of markets to cut costs.
Like I'm talking about a big.
So there are a lot of markets.
I'm talking about a big chill mousse.
Right. So I have seen even 5 stars. Can I just complete my answer, please? So a lot of 5 stars as well as different. I don't want to judge them. There are a few very specialty desert places which make good quality mousse, which don't adulterate. But a lot of them do a lot of adulteration, and they're not traditionally mousses. As I said, mousses need to be aerated. Typically eggless mousse, they tend to add gelatin or agar as a set to compensate for the egg part of the mousse, right? So that's typically what they do in most places, and hence the reason I don't really prefer the mousses which are served in the vegetarian mousses which are served outside. Hence using yogurt sort of helps build that volume as well as the richness to a mousse. Jasmine, you had a question. We'll quickly go and then we'll move to the next one. We'll just take 3 more questions.
Archana, I made the mousse, but it is little thin. So what can I do?
Keep it in the refrigerator. So, and then it should set. Okay.
So should I add a little more yogurt or anything?
No, it should set. As long as you're using hung yogurt, just put it back into the refrigerator for 3-4 hours and it'll set, because we've added chocolate, and chocolate itself has a consistency to, when put in refrigeration, it hardens. So it'll become thick. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And we'll take one more question from someone, Rashmi. Yeah.
Yeah, hi Archana. Just a question. I've noticed in a lot of dessert-based recipes, you mentioned, like your recipe mentions thick cream. Now, is there a difference between whipping cream, cooking cream, and thick cream? And what is recommended to use for desserts? And how does each one turn differently when you try to beat them?
Yeah. So very simple, right? So most often for desserts, you need to whip the cream. So whipping cream has something called cream of tartar and a few other things, stabilizing agents added into it, which help it to sort of whip up very quickly without you having to do anything. And most often we don't get whipped cream in India. And if the manufacturers are not clear about what goes into the ingredient list, I don't buy it. Typically, I don't buy whipped cream. So I typically buy the fresh cream or the cooking cream, whatever they call it. So, and I ensure that especially when I make desserts, I refrigerate it for sure for at least 24 hours, the cream Tetra Pak, which I buy. If it's Amul, I just refrigerate it. And after that, shake it up. So Amul usually has a little bit of liquid in it. So I remove that excess liquid, which comes out of the Amul Tetra Pak. So, so that doesn't alter the consistency of our dessert. So when I don't know if you're in India, you would, are you from India?
No, I live in the Middle East, and we do we get whipping cream Tetra Packs. We get cooking cream, and which is already very thick. So that's why I'm always confused.
So both are fine. So both are fine. So whipping cream helps you to sort of whip it faster. It has stabilizing agents, and it's fine as well. Sometimes they also have sugar in them. You can watch out for that. Sometimes they don't have sugar, but they do have stabilizing agents which help them whip. So when it comes to heavy cream or a cooking cream, which is thick, you have to use icing sugar, which has a little bit of cornstarch, which sort of builds the stabilizer for the whipping it up and coming it to stiff peaks, and also sugar. So we have to ensure that it's chilled, because if it's at room temperature, it will not whip very well. So you have to ensure that your whip is clean, especially when you're making whipped cream or you're making stiff egg whites. You need to ensure that your bowl and your whip and your whipping wire and everything is super clean, so that there's no contamination, and it sort of builds aeration very well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll take one more question. Neha, you had a question?
Yes. So I just wanted to know if we could also use cream cheese instead of yogurt.
Yeah, then it will become cheesecake. But I would say this is a semi-cheesecake, in my opinion. It's a cross between a yogurt cheesecake, which is no bake, and and a cross between mousse. So a lot of people interchange the names. So you can call this a yogurt chocolate cheesecake, or you can call it a yogurt mousse, which is eggless, no bake, right? So, and either one of them, if you are putting it into a crust and then like a biscuit crumb, and then put the same mixture over a biscuit crumb, and it would just easily sort of sell off for a cheesecake, right? So you can use cream cheese. Cream cheese is not a component used in mousses, because it doesn't aerate really well. It doesn't give that airiness. It is a little more dense. Yeah. So great. So let's actually move on to to the next set of recipes. Okay. So I'm just going to refrigerate this. So the next one we're going to make is the chili sauce, because that's simple. And then we'll make the noodle bowl, and the last one will be the spring rolls, so that we are ready with everything. And then if you're cooking along as well, you would have the fresh memory to make the spring rolls very quickly. So I'm just going to refrigerate this and come back. So there you go. This is not it. Okay. So sambal, you know, a lot of times we've had in restaurants, we have like a sweet chili sauce which goes with momos or spring rolls. And even the Thai cuisine, they serve Thai sweet chili sauce. And this is pretty much very, very similar. We're going to try to achieve the taste. As I said, I really try to, if I could make the rice vinegar, I'd make that at home too. So I really like to dive deep into ingredients and to sort of get the actual flavors and make the dishes themselves. And in that humble sort of expertise. So this is I've soaked red chilies over here. Typically, you have something called the sambal paste, which is essentially chilies combined along with vinegar, garlic, and all of it combined. And then they sort of beat it up with some sugar and cornstarch and then make the sweet chili. There are various different versions of the recipes, but this is something that I developed over the course of many years of cooking Asian food. So what I did was regular red chilies. You can use any red chilies which are available locally. I've just soaked it in warm water. And I have some corn flour over here and some rice vinegar. I typically use rice vinegar in all my cooking. As I said, it's healthier. And I have some honey. They don't use honey. They use palm sugar, but not for the chili sauce. They use regular sugar itself. But I'm going to be using honey so that we can have an alternative to sugar. And of course, garlic, right? So let's get started. So first thing that I'm going to do is to actually make a puree of this. It'll be a very coarse puree, paste rather, along with the water which is there inside, or you can just drain it and then we'll add in the water later. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this, put it into the mixer grinder, a small jar of the mixer grinder, and maybe add a little bit of water, just sort of required, if it's required. So to make like a paste, and then we'll just blend it and then come back and then we'll put it into a saucepan and make the Thai sweet chili sauce. Okay, so let's just do that. Just gonna mute myself so that the audio from the mixer grinder doesn't hurt your ear. been speaking all this while. I'm really, really sorry, guys. So, so what I did was, I hope all of you watched me. I'm really sorry. Apologies for this after mixer grinder. What I did was I ground the chilies, and to that, once it was ground, I just said that, you know, it's very easy to make a chili sauce at home, because once you have like that chili paste, all you have to do is to blend it along with some garlic and vinegar, and then you have your chili sauce at home. You don't have to really buy a chili sauce, and it's really that simple. And once I made that paste, I actually added in the honey, the corn flour, and a little bit of water, which the chilies were soaking in, and the chili paste, and sort of mixed it up. Right, so now I'm ready to cook it in the pan. And so I have another pan with me, which is induction friendly. And I'm now just going to cook it in the pan and until it becomes thick. Give it a taste. We also have to have salt to it. And we're also going to be adding some vinegar. Okay, and just a little bit of salt and some vinegar as well. About a teaspoon of vinegar, like 5-6 punches of it is good. And we'll mix it up until it thickens up, okay? And you'll know it'll become nice and slimy, and it'll thicken up as well. So we'll just keep stirring it so that it doesn't sort of stick to the bottom of the pan, and give it a taste. As I said, right? So every time you make something, the only way we learn about flavors and ingredients is about tasting them. And so you start beginning to understand how a soy sauce tastes like. In fact, even the chilies, if you are open to it, you should give it a taste. And yes, they are hot, but it's important to taste them as well, right? So because you'll know the heat of the chilies, because in India you get so many different versions of the chilies from Andhra. Andhra has different types of chilies. Karnataka has chilies. Then the north has chilies, and Maharashtra has chilies. Each one of them have their own variations of the chilies. Notice it's coming to a boil, and keep stirring it. And once it boils for it bubbles for about 3 to 4 minutes or less than that, it's becoming a little too thick. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in a little bit of water, and that's it. Because as it sort of sits through, it'll start thickening. Okay, so this is good. We'll just give it a quick bubble. Give it a taste at this point. It's perfect. The salt, the vinegar is good. The chili is really spicy. So this is done. So notice that it's got, because we added the cornstarch, it started getting that transparency into it. It felt a little milkish, right? But the moment we sort of brought it to a boil, it's got a little transparent texture to it, and this is done. I gave it a taste, right? And it's really that simple. So our chili sauce is done. I'm just going to go ahead and transfer it to a bowl. That's it, guys. So I don't think y'all will have any questions on this. Give it a taste. And if you feel it needs a little more salt, add the salt. I'm quite sure that you won't need any more chilies, because it is 4 to 5 chilies is a good heat. And if you feel you want it sweeter, you can add a little more honey. And I think the corn flour was just perfect amount. And if it thickens up a little bit as it rests, just add a little bit of hot water to it and whisk it up with a fork, and it will loosen up. Okay, so those are the tips. Okay, so now we're done with the chili sauce. So let's keep this to the side. And now we're going to make our noodle bowl, right? So for that, I'm just going to get a bowl, and I'm going to show you all the ingredients. So I'm going to be cooking it in this large bowl over here. And that's the spring roll. So, and that's my noodles, and I have some vegetables, which I've chopped up. Add some noodles, which I have cooked in the morning. So it's always important when you're making noodle bowls, Let me tell you a little bit about noodle bowls and why they exist and why it's so popular and common. It's actually we're making it very fancy here today, but most often it's the dal chawal of Pan Asian food. And it's sort of very glorified nowadays with chefs who are connoisseurs about food and cuisines have sort of brought out the different tastes of various different regions around Asia and sort of brought in the delicacy into noodle bowls. So we'll speak about that in just a bit. So this is a mixing bowl. So I'm just going to get all my ingredients. So I have some spring onions. I have some tomato puree. This is another chili paste, which is a Szechuan paste, which is a ready-made Szechuan paste. I didn't make it at home. Szechuan peppers are made. So as I said, it's called Szechuan chili because Szechuan, just like jalapenos or lal mirch or hari mirch, is a type of a chili, and hence it's called the Szechuan. And it comes from the Szechuan region, and the chilies are very, very spicy. And that's the soy sauce. There's a dark soy sauce and light soy sauce. I usually go for the dark because just adding a little bit gives in that intense flavor. Give your soy sauce a taste. It has salts in them. Szechuan also will have salt in it. So, and also will have vinegar in it. So you need to actually watch out for the amount of salt you add into your dishes when you're using ingredients which already have a lot of salt. And coriander. And a lot of people use turmeric over there as well in Asia. Today, I'm not going to be using turmeric. I have cinnamon and I have coriander. Coriander is very widely used, and also coconut milk. And again, as I said, this is pan fusion, which you get in, I don't know if many of you have been to Mama Gato. It's a very good restaurant which is across pan India and many places. And they serve these noodle bowls. And so noodle bowls are essentially one of the most staple cuisines for Asian regions. Just like, so essentially when you start going into the Northeast itself, they have this variation called the tukpa, which is essentially broth, which has absolutely nothing in it but salt and all the vegetables which bring in the flavors. And they make fresh noodles, if I may say, which is like thin strips of atta, which is dough which is kneaded and then cut into strips or squares or any shape form which they like, and then added into the vegetable broth, or most often, of course, meat as well, right? And it's a very, very staple dish, and all the flavors actually come from that dish, from all the vegetables and the meat, and they don't have to add anything else, and it's really simple. And as you keep progressing towards into the Asian regions, they start using spices and herbs as well. Herbs are very few, but in terms of spices and chilies and condiments. And turmeric is widely used in Indonesia as well. So if you go into Indonesia, you'll have their curries which have turmeric, so which you can use. So I'm just going to keep this close. So first thing we're going to do is to actually make the sauce ready for our the curry base ready. So we have the ingredients for the curry base. So there's some honey, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and add in the honey into my mixing bowl. So take a mixing bowl. So add in the honey into the mixing bowl, okay? And there you go. And we'll add in the soy sauce. We'll also add in the vinegar. And so instead of vinegar, you can also add lemon, which is usually, if you're adding lemon, don't add it right now. You can add it much towards the end when you're ready to eat. And then you can add in the sriracha paste or the Szechuan chili paste or the red chili sauce. Anything works. A Szechuan chili paste or a sriracha sauce or a Szechuan paste works. And we'll add in the coriander powder. If you wish, you can add in very little turmeric. They most often add in from the root form. They make a drink out of turmeric as well. I forget the name. And it's really, really delicious. It's got a hint of sugar, I think honey. And they make a juice out of turmeric. And then they also add some lemon into it, and then it's like a turmeric shot. And I forget the name of it. I'm going to Google it and get back to you guys. And some cinnamon powder as well. So turmeric, just like ginger, we would add the root, which is stripped and added. But turmeric powder is something I've not seen very widely, but root is definitely used. Okay, and we're going to whisk this up. Right, so, and I'm actually going to go ahead and add the coconut milk into this, and I'll tell you why. So, because it'll form and we'll add the, the tomato puree into this, and not coconut milk, tomato puree into this. So, this tomatoes is fresh chopped tomatoes, which I just pureed without blanching or cooking it. If you add like a ready-made tomato puree, which you get in the market, it'll be more denser and thicker. So you might have to sort of lighten your noodle bowl by adding a little bit of water, because it'll have a little more dense and acidic taste to it, right? So just watch out for that. I just added fresh tomatoes and then pureed them. Please, I know many of you will have questions. Please make a note of them, and we will answer all of those questions in just a bit. I want you all to give this sauce a taste right now, and give it a taste, and then sort of absorb all the flavors that have gone into it, right? So, brilliant. I think it's really nice. I haven't added salt, just remember that, and it's got really good flavors. I like the coriander coming out. I would like a little bit of cinnamon. You could add black pepper powder at this stage if you wish as well. But this is completely red chili driven, so we could leave it at red chilies. And if you want a little bit sweetness later, you can add more honey, or you can add palm sugar. Palm sugar is very widely used in the region. So now that our curry base is ready, we're going to go ahead and make our vegetables. We're going to stir fry our vegetables in the pan, and stir frying brings in a little bit of taste. So we'll cook it until the vegetables are almost like half done, and after that we'll simmer it in the curry base, and so that all the vegetables absorb the flavors. Okay, I'm just going to wipe this, turn it on. The oils that they typically use are sesame oil and to give in that flavor, and some regions also use coconut oil. Very rarely I see them using any other oil. Fish oil is used as well. So you can use either regular oil or sesame oil, because oils definitely add a lot of flavor changing moments to a dish, right? So just like mustard oil changes the taste of a dish, coconut oil changes when you go to Kerala. Similarly, sesame oil is used very often in the south of India. Uses a lot of sesame oil, especially Tamil Nadu, in making a lot of dishes like sabzis, right? So even the Asian cuisine, some of the Asian cuisines like the Thai use either fish or sesame. So I'm just going to add a little bit of sesame oil to this. So it's a little bit darkish in color, tilka tel, right? So I'm going to add very little. This is just to coat the pan, and add in the garlic and the ginger. As I said, galangal is very often used in the Asian, not Chinese, but other Asian. And we'll also add in the spring onions. Okay. So we'll give this a stir. I can start smelling the flavors of garlic already. And we don't have to stir it too much. They don't need to get cooked too much. We'll add in the vegetables. What you can also do is to steam the vegetables and add it directly, then you don't have to roast them. You can put it into a steamer if you have a steamer. If you're used to using a steamer at home, then steaming vegetables and keeping it ready will also work, because all the flavors actually come from the curry sauce, and of course the garlic and the spring onions that we have added. So we'll just roast it. We can add just a little bit of salt right now. We'll cover the pan, and so while this is cooking, we'll take in some questions, and then we'll be ready to add the curry sauce. I'm just going to cover the pan, and we'll take in some questions. I think we are So Rohit has a question. Go ahead, Rohit. I'm sorry, your name. Yeah. You can unmute yourself.
Do we add any water to this?
Yes, we will be adding water. Not right now. You can actually sprinkle some water if you feel it'll burn down at the bottom. Definitely a good
because
option.
Ginger and garlic tend to stick to the pan if we don't add a little bit of water.
Got it. So if you are using a pan where it sort of sticks through, just go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of water at the bottom, and sort of it'll build up more steam to cook the vegetables faster. Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm using a puree,
sorry,
I add it
go
to
ahead.
the stock right now, the curry.
You're using fresh turmeric?
No, I'm using a tomato puree.
Tomato puree, I added it to the curry base, yes.
Yeah, so I use it with the curry base itself.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, how can we add chicken to it? Chicken, if we want to add.
So if you want to add chicken, so it goes in at this stage. So you first cook the chicken,
Okay.
then you and cook the vegetables separately if you're adding vegetables as well. So you roast the chicken in the pan with a little bit of salt and until it becomes tender, and then cover it and cook it, the way you would do it. And after that, you would also cook the vegetables separately. Both of their cooking times are lightly different, right? So if you add carrots and things like that, so I suggest cook the vegetables and the chicken separately before you add them.
Okay, thank you.
Today you've taken which vegetables?
Today I used so I have used zucchini. Let me check. So I use yellow zucchini, I use carrots, I use green capsicum and red capsicum. That's it. So I didn't have anything else. I didn't get broccoli, I didn't get baby corn. You can add sweet corn, baby corn. You can add bamboo shoots if you get, and you can, you can also use bok choy cabbage, cut it into large chunks. You can use regular cabbage cut into large chunks as well. And you can use broccoli, of course. You can use green zucchini. Zucchini is not a very Asian vegetable. You can use flat beans, snow peas as they call it. Flat beans is very used very often. So you can use flat beans or snow peas. So as I said, the vegetables are predominantly region specific, and we sort of alter it according to what is available. Asian vegetables, in my opinion, would be carrots. Sorry, the electricity went. It should be back. The generator would kick in. So Asian vegetables would be carrots, your beans, your flat beans, your French beans. Broccoli, people have started using broccoli, bok choy. Yeah, pretty much those.
Zucchini, you have to remove the skin?
No, zucchini, you don't need to remove the skin. Yeah. Okay, Soumya? Yeah.
Archana?
Yes. Okay, Shiv, yes.
Yeah. Okay, my sauce, I just think, could you show me the consistency? Mine is a little thin.
So this is the consistency. It is thin, so it is not watery, so it's sort of flowy, and that's fine, right?
Yes, mine is flowy, but a little it's like water. So what do I do?
So so we haven't added water yet. So you added a tomato puree, which is made at home?
Yes.
Okay, so just give it a taste and see what is missing. If it has the right amount and balance of flavors, if you think, in your opinion, it has the right spice, right little bit of tartness and that sweetness, and the chili, and everything is okay, then you're good to go. And then we will alter it and adjust it as we sort of go when we add it to the curry base. Yeah.
So right now I just leave it watery, leave it as it is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
What is the substitute for sriracha and Szechuan? Red chili sauce?
Red chili sauce will work.
But it won't be as spicy as...
yeah, so it will not be. So if you want it spicy, you can add red chili powder.
Okay.
And Soumya, you had a question? Yeah, Soumya. Yeah, I can't hear you. Soumya? Okay. Pragnya, you can take the next one if you have a question.
No, fine, I'm good.
Okay, got it. All right. So my electricity went, and this one very smartly also turned off, and I forgot to turn it on. Great. So I hope your vegetables are cooked. I'm going to turn the heat up to high. and I think they're
sorry. One more question. When do we add the tofu?
Tofu is added much in the end, so you want it to remain soft, and so you add the tofu right at the end. Okay, so you want it to, because tofu absorbs the flavors very, very quickly. You really don't. It doesn't need to be cooked along with it too much. Yeah, yeah. So just like sorry.
Would you be able to tell, like, at which stage, like when we're cooking along, like when to add the tofu?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I will tell you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we are done with the questions. So we will go ahead and get started with the cooking. So notice that it has released a lot of moisture over there, and you can see the bubbles, which essentially is the vegetables are sweating a little bit, right? Which is good. So now it's completely a personal choice of how you like your vegetables. Noodle bowls. So the way I look at textures in food is that every element that gets into a dish needs to have a similar texture. For example, noodle is soft, right? So if you have your vegetables a little too crunchy, so then you'll be chewing on your vegetables a lot more, as opposed to chewing on the as opposed to just having a nice smooth texture like the noodle has. So always the way I sort of balance the texture. So one is the flavors that go in, which is the curry base that we have made, and the other is the textures. The texture plays a very important role in bringing out and heightening the dish. So it is important. Like, for example, if you're using chicken, you can actually shred it. If you like your texture to be a little more chewy, then you can keep it in chunks. And same with vegetables. So these vegetables cook very fast. The bell peppers cook very fast. It's only the carrots that are going to take a little bit of time to cook. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a taste to see. Zucchini actually gets done really quickly. Carrots are a little firm, and personally, they can get cooked a little more. So I'm just going to saute them just for a little bit. And another thing is, when we're actually boiling it inside the curry sauce, it'll get cooked as well. So if your vegetables are cooked and has a bite which is similar to the bite of the noodles, so that's something that you can judge. And it is, it's not crunchy, but it is nice and smooth. And that's exactly what you want to observe in your texture. And you go ahead and add in the curry sauce. And at this stage, we're also going to be adding water and also the coconut milk. So we'll add in the coconut milk, and I have to wash out the curry. So about 1 cup of water is what I'm going to add. And we're going to adjust the water consistency because it's going to be a noodle bowl. We need a lot of curry in it, and because the noodles are also going to be immersed. So right now 1 cup, and after some time, I'm just going to add another cup of water once we give it a brisk boil for about 3 to 4 minutes. At this stage is when you sort of adjust the flavors which go in. So you would adjust the sugar that you want, or the cinnamon. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit of everything. So that is something that I missed adding in the recipe booklet. So because the last part that you sort of do, the flavor portions, I'm going to update it and send it to you guys, is something that I always do. Is the curry base actually has just the right amount of spices that you need. But over and above, if you want something more, I'm going to speak to you about it. Maybe you can make notes and I'll update this as well. I'm just going to get some more water. Okay. So while it is simmering, why don't you give it a taste? Okay, so you will notice that it's very thick. So I'm just going to take a spoon and give it a taste. And if you want to experiment, and if you want to make it a little more Vietnamese flavors, you can add, or even the Vietnamese flavors, I could say, you can add a tablespoon of peanut butter if you like. So the peanut butter can be whisked a little bit along with hot water or a little more coconut milk, and then add in the peanut butter at this stage. And it tastes really nice. The flavors of peanut butter into the curry. It's perfect. Okay, and I'm just going to add more water. So the moment you dilute it, it will need more spices. So now we'll just turn the heat to up high and then give it a stir. I added another cup of water. You want it to be a good watery noodle bowl. It's like your soup, right? So, and then you would have the noodles go into it, and I'm going to show you how to assemble it. And after that, you would pour the curry over it and then serve it as a noodle bowl. And just gonna give it one more taste because we added water. Needs a little bit more salt and a dash of cinnamon, a little more spice. And you can check if you wish to have a little more chilies at this stage, you can add black pepper or you can add red chili powder or some more sriracha sauce. So coriander seems to be okay for me. I just needed that extra spice. And maybe some black pepper. I'm not going to be adding more spice because my children, are going to have it for dinner as well. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But if you want a little more spice, spice options are adding either crushed black pepper or more red chili powder or sriracha sauce or red chili sauce would go well. And finally, when we're serving, we're going to be adding a little bit of lemon juice as well, if you'd like. And that will sort of enhance the taste just before serving it, and not right now. But if there is enough tartness already, like for example, if you used a ready-made puree, it would have that tartness already. So then you don't need to add more. This is perfect. So I don't know if all of you have tried the Maggi. So I guess the Maggi, the Tastemaker masala as well. So when you take it and taste it, and then you try to decipher all the ingredients that go into it, you'll start beginning to realize that some of the taste actually comes out through this. So they add in a lot of dehydrated ingredients, from coriander, cinnamon, certain chilies, a lot of salt, some citric acid crystals, which just compensates for the vinegar taste, and a few other things which are proprietary, I guess. But it sort of brings out those flavors into it, very curry-ish. And of course, the coconut milk that I've added, it will not overpower it. It will not make it too like the Thai curry, but it's just to add that lightness, to sort of break the sourness from the spice from the curry, right? So sort of pan fusion. So yeah, this is good. Let it simmer. The more it simmers, the more the vegetables would sort of absorb the flavors, and the flavors of the vegetables would sort of seep into the dish as well. So just cover it and it'll just keep simmering, and we'll keep it to the side. So the way you assemble the noodle bowl is, we'll do it right towards the end, is you don't add the noodles into the curry itself. I never do that. Actually take a bowl of a little bit of noodles per serving, right? So you take a bowl in which you're ready to serve it in. It could be a soup bowl, or it could be a salad bowl or a pasta bowl, and in which you want to serve, and take a handful of noodles per serving as to how much you like to have, how much noodles you like to have in your bowl, and add in the vegetables to it, the broth, the curry to it, and then your noodle bowl will be ready. And that's it. And then you can, add in some finely chopped spring onions over it. You can squeeze in some lemon. You can also add in some roasted peanuts in the top. So like that's, coming from the Burma, which is the Burmese culture part of it. So you can actually bring in a lot of different modifications and to make your noodle bowl really interesting. So if you go to, what is that? Mama Gato, that's what they do. They provide you a little list of condiments, from peanuts to fried garlic to onions. And so you can add whatever you want to your noodle bowl to make it tasty. So this is good. Our noodle ball is done. Let that simmer for a good 5 minutes, so all the flavors, they sort of get well absorbed. And after that, we'll serve this towards the end. So now we'll go into making the spring rolls. And at this stage, I want you all to watch it and probably not make it. The reason is it can get a little complex if you haven't made it before. So we have to, of course, cook the vegetables for the spring rolls, which you can do for sure. And I'm going to take this and transfer it to the back. And bring my pan. Grease it a little bit. Great. So, so we're going to be making the wrappers from scratch right now. And before we make the wrappers, let's get our vegetables sorted and keep it to the side. So I have, as I said, vegetables like finely shredded cabbage, thinly shredded. I have carrots, which I've cut into thin strips, really, really fine thin strips, okay? And because when it goes into the filling, you don't want it to. And similarly with the capsicum. So I have all of this chopped and kept. And what I'm going to do now is to preheat a pan and then saute the ginger, the spring onions, and the vegetables until they soften completely. We'll do it on medium heat. And once that softens, medium to low heat, and keep stirring it intermittently. You can sprinkle a little bit of water so that it doesn't get burnt at the bottom based on the pan you're using. Okay, and great. So let's just do that and with the spring roll. So first we'll do the vegetables and then we'll get started with making the wrapper. So into my pan, we'll just preheat this, which has, I'm going to add the ginger and the spring onions. We'll just give it a stir. And I don't cook the spring onions too much because they just need to sort of quickly wilt down, and it takes hardly 10 seconds for that to happen. And so here in the spring onion mixture, the only flavors that go in are so the spring roll filling mixture is the black pepper, ginger, the spring onions. Spring onions add to the flavor. Ginger brings in that flavor, black pepper and salt, and of course the fresh flavors of the vegetables, right? So let's just roast them, and we'll add in the salt right now so that the vegetables will release moisture and when it comes in contact with salt, and it will cook faster. Okay, so we're just gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt and give it a stir, and you can also sprinkle a little bit of water, like a tablespoon maybe. We'll cover the pan and then we'll allow this to cook. We'll add the black pepper much later. Okay, so this is for the slurry. So now let's do the curry. I'm going to turn off the curry bowl. The curry bowl is done. We don't want it to. So if your curry is simmering, turn it off. We don't want it to be overcooking it. Okay, so for this, for the wrapper, I'm just gonna find another bowl. I'll just take this. Yeah, I think this is good. So I have, so corn flour brings in crispness. Someone asked me, I think Jasmine had asked if we can use wheat flour for making spring roll wrappers. No, they don't. Wheat flour doesn't bring in that texture to add to the crispness. Like for example, if you're making a samosa or something, you can. But when you make it, we are going to be making a pancake, a sort of a crepe, very thin dosa, a crepe to make the wrapper. So when we do that, corn flour and the all-purpose flour, which is maida, has the right consistency and has the gluten to sort of the maida has the gluten to hold the corn flour, and the corn flour also adds to the crispness. Okay, so that's pretty much the reason why we use this. And yeah. So I'm just going to add both the flours and just very little salt. We'll go to the wrapper page. Most often I just end up not looking at my recipes. So I just want to ensure that we're doing things right. So I've measured it and kept. It's half cup of all-purpose flour and quarter cup of corn flour. And we have just a quarter teaspoon of salt, right? Just not much, just a quarter teaspoon. And we're going to add 1 cup of water. So I have 1 cup of water measured here as well and kept. So this is going to be a very thin batter, and I'm going to show that to you. It is much thinner than dosa batter, okay? Because we're going to be spreading it in the pan by swirling it, okay? And you can also spread it like a dosa if you don't have a pan, which was non-stick pan that you're using. I understand that some of you are not using a non-stick pan. So non-stick pan really helps in this. Otherwise, you have to use a well seasoned cast iron pan, wherein it will come out really very, very easily. So hence the reason I wanted you all to watch it and not make it along with me, okay? So let's just ensure that we dissolve it, ensure that no lumps. This seems to be burning. I need to give it a stir. So it's softening very fast. That's the thing about vegetables when they are julienne. So when you cut them into thin strips, it's called julienne in French cooking technique. And they cook very fast. And notice that it's already started sweating, and the bottom of my pan is sort of getting a little burnt, almost there. I just caught it at the right time. So I'm going to turn the heat to low, and I'm going to turn off the heat at this stage. If your vegetables have softened like this, turn off the heat, and we'll add in a little bit of black pepper at this time, okay? And turn off the heat and keep the pan closed. Allow it to cool, because this needs to get cooled before we sort of stuff it into the spring rolls, right? So a little bit of crunch inside is absolutely fine. Just give it a bite and see if it's cooked, if you're unsure whether it's cooked properly or not, right? This is good. And because when you're deep frying them, they're going to get cooked even further in high heat. So I'm just going to keep this to the side. Okay, because we're going to get the spring rolls pan. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to change my headset. And it should be very, very smooth. And a good trick, if you, which I always do, is to actually put this into the mixer grinder, blender jar, and then just give it a beat, and it'll just gets well combined very quickly. That if you're struggling with, mashing it up really well, just put it into the mixer grinder jar and then just blend it, and you'll have a nice smooth batter. So that's a trick. It's just that you have to wash one additional dish. I'll just wait. I'm just waiting for the lumps to go away. I think it'll be a good idea if I can just put it into the mixer grinder and blend it in. Okay, so now this feels a little thick to me. I added 1 cup of water, and sometimes based on the type of flour that you get in the market and the humidity and so many other things sort of matter for this. Okay, great. So this is good, almost lump-free. I can see 1 or 2 lumps there. It needs to have absolutely no lumps. So my suggestion is to actually put it into a mixer grinder jar and then just bring it back. So here you go. So now, once you have a batter with no lumps, so it needs to coat the back of the ladle. There is a lump. So when you, it should be a very thin coat at the back of the ladle, right? So now, if it coats very thick, in my opinion, if it looks more whitish, then it's very thick. So if it just coats like this, then it's a perfect consistency. So that's the kind of consistency you want. You want a thin coat at the back of the ladle. If it's too watery, then you will not get this coat. But that's the reason I actually measured the amount of water. 1 cup of water is essentially what I use. What I'm going to do is, there are still lumps. I'm going to go ahead and put it into my mixer blender jar, and then just sort of give it a quick spin. Absolutely no lumps, you know. That's how it should be. Okay. There you go. This is much better, right? Okay. One more additional thing to wash. Okay. Now that this is done, we have to make our slurry ready. So this is again, I have some, we will get to making our spring roll wrappers in a bit. So in the meanwhile, let's keep our slurry ready. This slurry is nothing but maida combined along with, or it can be any flour, doesn't matter. But maida works well because we're using maida for everything. And combined with a little bit of water, you make a nice thick paste, about 2 tablespoons of water. So for the slurry, I added 3 tablespoons of flour, and we'll add in about 3 tablespoons of water. Let me get some more water, and so we want to make a thick paste, okay? And we'll keep this ready. It has to be so that you can actually, this is meant for sealing the spring roll wrapper. So we're going to be spreading it around the edges of the spring roll wrapper and when we're actually making the, adding the filling and then rolling it to make a roll, okay? So again, no lumps. This is simple, not too difficult. So we'll keep this to the side. Okay, so now comes the real part. So I'm just going to get the pan here to the center so you all can see it more clear. We'll turn on the pan, and we need to ensure the pan is on medium high heat and not high heat. You don't want the pan to be extremely hot, because what will happen is when there are 2 ways you can do it. One is if you don't have a pan which is non-stick, which is like a fresh new non-stick, which I only use for making omelets or wrappers and or crepes for that matter, and I don't use it for anything else because I don't want it to get spoiled, right? So ensure that it is you're going to preheat the pan. I'm going to grease it with a little bit of oil, and let me get that. Where is the paper I used? Yeah, so I'm just going to grease it a little bit of oil. And if you're using a cast iron pan in which you're making for dosa, ensure that it is well greased, right? So because you want, and I'm assuming you might not be able to spread it like I'm going to show you right now. I'll also show you the spreading technique that you can use. First is the swirling technique, which is essentially you pour the batter in and then you swirl the pan to make the spring roll wrapper. And it's hot. I'm going to turn the heat to low because you don't want it too hot, because otherwise it'll just split. And most often, the first ones will always split, okay? There. Okay, we'll turn it on. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in 1 and 2, and I'm going to swirl the pan so that there you go, and it'll automatically spread itself. And spring roll, and then you sort of, there are some holes there, and that's fine. We'll figure it out when we're making it. And it cooks really quickly. It doesn't take long to cook at all. So notice that it's cooked already, and slowly release it by the side. And we're going to flip it on the other side, and it'll just come out. And that's it, right? So flip it on the other side, just for a few seconds on the other side. And then we take it out and we put it into a plate, and then we make our other one. So I'm going to show you again. Oh boy, electricity. I just wish we had more stable electricity in our country. Okay. Great. So that's the wrapper. It's really thin, right? So I'm going to now do it again. So the moment you pour it in, you pour the batter. And after that, it should not be hot, the pan. So if it's too hot, then it will not spread itself very well, and it'll be thick on some sides like it is right now. So I'm just going to cover a little bit of filling there. And the next one, I'm going to show you the spreading technique. So
The moment you put it in, it cooks very quickly. And you can actually stack the spring roll wrappers one above the other, and it's fine. There you go. It will start coming out from the edges and flip it over. So hence the reason a non-stick pan really helps for it to spread evenly, okay? I'll take it out and put it at the bottom. And we will do the spreading technique. Let me get another ladle for that. So I'm going to add it. It's like a dosa. Be very careful. You just spread it out. You can do that as well. Just that it'll have a few ridges, which is not as smooth, but that's fine. It still works. And just wait for a few seconds. Within a few seconds, it'll start releasing from the edges, and then you know it's done. And you take it and you flip it. And flip it, keep it for a few seconds, and this is done, okay? Extremely soft they are. And I'm gonna make a few more. Okay, so I think I'm done. I'm gonna make these wrappers later. So I'll show you now how to fill it, seal it, and then do the rest. So I'm gonna take questions. Just make a note of all the questions or you have for the wrapper. Ouch. Turn it off. Okay. And this has got stuck. That's okay. Things like this happen. I'm gonna release it once I take it out of the pan. Yeah, because we didn't flip it, the other side got stuck to this. So that's the only reason. So, oh well, this is gone. Sometimes, you know, things like this happen. So if you don't flip it up quickly the other side, and then it doesn't fill in properly. Okay, so it'll get stuck. Okay, so now I'm going to preheat my pan with oil for deep frying. Someone mentioned shallow frying. Give it a try to see how it shallow fries. You might not get the best results, but it'll still work. I'm just going to go ahead and heat up the oil for deep frying. Okay. So now, so you can stack these wrappers. Notice that because they flipped on both the sides for a few seconds, you can actually stack them one above the other once it's cooled down. And then after that, you can actually store it. Put a little bit of oil, put a little bit of butter paper, and then you can store it in the refrigerator, airtight container, yeah, or Ziploc, and yeah, and then store it in the freezer as well. For freezer will stay for many months, just like you get frozen wrappers, right? So it works very, very similar to that. Essentially, you just apply a little bit of oil and place a piece of butter paper or parchment paper between each sheet, and then stack it one above the other. Notice that I've been stacking and it's not sticking, and it's got a perfect consistency, right? So this is good. So our oil's getting heated up, and we have our slurry paste, and I'm gonna get the vegetables. Let me put the vegetables to a bowl so it becomes easier to handle. So I have some vegetables here and the slurry paste here, right? So simple, place it on your surface, and we'll take a small spoon, really tiny spoon, like a pickle spoon, right? And place it towards the edge of the roll, not towards the center. And try not to like really stuff it in, because then you won't be able to roll it out very well. It just needs to have probably a table, depending upon the size of your roll. This is close to about 8 inches. So, and that's the amount of filling that you need to have. Try not to stuff it in. You need to be able to make a roll. So I'm just going to move from the edge and take a little bit of slurry and ensure that you paste it. I'm going to put some around the edges, okay? That's good. And put some on the edge at the bottom. So you seal this guy, seal the vegetable down. The first roll. So I haven't actually rolled it out fully. And after that, we'll do one more. Tight, keep it tight. So try to bring it as tight as together as possible. And after that, you bring in, put in some more slurry on this part, because we're going to be folding it. Fold it. And this is how you, so it sticks in. And now you roll. So for it to roll, put slurry on all the places where the where there are edges and openings. You put the slurry, and then you roll it. There you go. So that's how it looks. And sometimes your roll and wrapper will tear. Like notice that it has torn. So at that stage, you just have to put in a little bit of slurry on the edges and seal it up, because now the slurry is maida as well. So it will just seal up the edges, and sometimes it will open up. Don't worry about that. It'll still taste good. So just put the slurry around the edges and seal it up, okay? And we'll fill up the other one as well. 2 more, and then we'll deep fry them. And I'm going to open up for questions as soon as I finish deep frying. So it's important that you don't fill it too much. The moment you notice that amount you filled was actually tearing up the wrapper, then you fill in a little bit less. So I'm just going to apply the slurry and tightly roll it, and ensuring that we don't tear the wrapper. It will not, because it has a good amount of gluten and starch from the corn flour, so it should be good. Okay, perfect. Fold it. Ensure there's slurry around so it sticks well. And this one's a perfect one. It didn't even, there's no vegetable falling out. Okay, and the spring roll, the oil is hot and we're ready to fry. Okay, slurry. Okay, perfect. And we fold it. Well, this could have taken more, because look at the amount of fold that happened, right? And we'll put the slurry around the edges again and fold. That's it, we're done. So I'm just going to go ahead and fry these rolls. I'm going to wash my hands. All right. And I think you'll be able to see the stool. Let me carefully move it. All right, good. And I'm going to keep some paper napkins ready so we can drain out the excess oil from deep frying. And we'll gently slide this in, and it's hot. So the way you see it's hot is it should start sizzling, and I could see that the oil was hot. Slide it in. Deep fried on medium heat and not on high heat. About 700 is what I've used, and it needs to fry on low heat until it becomes brown and crisp on all the sides, golden brown, right? And that's it. Our spring rolls will be done. ensure that it doesn't stick to the bottom. And if you're pan frying it, it's going to be a little bit of challenge. You might have to just keep adding more and more water. I'm not sure the best results would give it for a spring roll, but you can definitely try. Great. So now I'm going to open up for questions. And while I open up, I'm going to get the bowl for the noodle bowl so that I can show you how to assemble it as well while the spring rolls are getting done. Okay. I'm just going to keep this to the side and get my So we have, remove all of this, clean up. And we don't need this. So I have my spring rolls, which are going to be here, and the sauce, and I'm going to get a bowl for the noodle bowl. I'm just going to come in a bit. So I have like a lot of these. I have like about, so I serve these when I have guests at home as well. So I have about 21 of these, or 22, I think. So these are really, really handy. Comes in handy for cereals, Maggi, lots of different things, noodle bowls. I think I have to increase the heat and allow it to fry. Okay, great. So this is good. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it up for questions, and we're right on time. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And you have any questions on spring rolls, let me know. Great. As I said, please raise your hand and we'll take order of questions by the people who have raised their hands. Soumya, you had a question? You can unmute yourself to ask a question, Soumya. Yes. Sure. Rohit, yeah. Soumya, you had a question? Hello? Okay, maybe not. Anybody else had a question? Rohit, yeah.
Yeah, I can't get my wrappers right. They are sticking to the pan.
What pan are you using?
I'm using an anodized pan, and this is what it is looking like.
Oh, so it is anodized pans are very, very hard to make the wrappers in. It will stick to the pan. Either an iron pan or a non-stick pan is what will work. Because the anodized pan.
No, sorry, anodized.
So I think
anodized will not work.
Yeah, I think the coating also has gone off it, right?
No, it hasn't. It is a new pan.
Okay, yeah. So anodized pans actually don't work very well for making these crepes. They will stick. Like even dosas. I don't know if you make dosas on anodized pan. I've tried. It doesn't come out well.
I do.
You do? Okay.
I make a dosa, a thick dosa tawa.
Thick dosa, exactly. So
right.
The
I
thin
have
dosa.
A separate tawa for dosa, so that thick tawa.
So then you should make it in that. And try. Give it a try in that. Or if you have a non-stick pan, give it a try in that. So as I said, right, for making certain types of dishes, it's a good idea to have a good quality non-stick pan. Otherwise, it becomes very hard. You notice, right? It cooks very quickly. An anodized pan doesn't have it is a sticky thing. It's not non-stick. It's aluminum, which is hard anodized. The anodization process, which it's not non-stick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is not good for making the wrappers. Can I make it on a normal iron tawa, which I use for pulka? For making roti, can I use that?
If you use no, so you should use something that you use for me. If you try it with dosa, ensure that the iron tawa is greased properly, and then you can use
it.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So it should not stick out and come. Yeah. Ambika, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know that like once we fill up the stuffing in the crepes, like for the spring roll, can we freeze it and store it for a while?
Yeah, so the way you freeze it is you grease each crepe with a little bit of oil, and then very little, not too much. And then each layer of the crepe is placed, it needs to ensure when you freeze it, what happens is, there's moisture in the freezer, right? So, and it will start sticking together. So what you have to do to prevent the moisture is to put a butter paper or parchment paper between each one.
and and it has to be stored flat, not rolled, stored flat, as a flat sheet, either in a Ziploc but needs to have a parchment paper in between every roll so that it doesn't. The parchment paper acts as an absorbent for the moisture, and it will sort of freeze after that.
And how about if we want to refrigerate it for a while? Like maybe I want to refrigerate it just for a day.
So then
can we refrigerate it for a day?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
So what you can also do is to actually make the roll, the entire filling, and then freeze it like you would do for a samosa. So you can actually make the roll and the stuffing and then freeze it if you just don't want to freeze the wrapper. And
how long it can remain good after freezing?
Freezing is a process that it'll just stay. Freezing actually seals all the nutrition, seals everything, right? Because when it goes into that temperature, nothing happens to the dish. It'll just remain frozen.
Yeah. So because outside people are selling like this, freezed one.
Yeah. Frozen ones are actually, it will stay for a long time. As long as you don't keep taking in and out and taking in and out. As long as it stays frozen, you buy frozen and
So we can easily freeze it for a week at least, right? I mean, just in case we have
few
something
months. Yeah, exactly. So I do that. So when I make samosas or things like that for parties, what I do is I make the crust and the filling and then freeze it completely. I dust it with a little bit of flour so that it doesn't stick. And then I put it in Ziploc bags and just freeze it.
Without frying? Without frying you're making? Okay.
Without frying, I freeze it.
It remains good?
Very good. And then after that, you put it in the oil. You take it, just saw it for 5 minutes after you take it, and then put it in the oil. It comes out really crisp.
Okay. We must try.
Thank you.
Hi, Archana. This is Soumya.
Yes, Soumya. Yeah.
Hi. Is there any difference between the cornmeal or the corn flour that you're using? Does it make any difference to the spring rolls?
Cornmeal is yellow in color, if I'm not mistaken. Corn starch and corn flour are similar. Cornmeal is more like polenta or makai ka atta, I think, which is more yellow in color. Yeah, so yes, there is a difference. Just like wheat flour and maida, so there is a difference. So like that, there is cornmeal, which is makai ka atta, and corn flour or / corn starch. It's different. So maida is more processed. Corn flour / corn starch is more processed, and it doesn't have the husk and all the fiber. But the cornmeal or the makai ka atta is all the fiber and the husk. So it's trying. Vaishnavi, you had a question?
Hi. Yeah. So my question is, can we use the same wrapper for dim sums or dumplings?
They are made differently. So so that is made like a dough.
Okay.
So that is not, because that you cannot shape. You can't. You have to shape them. It has to be malleable. It needs to have gluten in it. So you need to mix it with water. There's no corn flour there. There's only maida. I've made it with the wheat flour as well. That one you can make it with wheat flour and a ragi flour, and you can mix and match. But a little bit of gluten flour needs to be there for that, either wheat or maida. And then you knead it well until it's nice and firm, and then you make it into small portions, roll it, and then put in the same dumpling, and then steam it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Ragna, you had a question?
No, it's fine. I
got it. Any other questions? Anyone?
Yes. Archana.
Yeah.
If we deep freeze it, how long we'll have to take it out and keep it out before frying them?
Depending upon the humidity of your place, but I would say about 5-10 minutes is good enough. Not too much. Yeah. So 5-10 minutes is good enough. So these are done beautifully. Notice that.
That's all. 10 minutes would be fine.
Yeah. More than enough. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So this is done, guys. The spring roll. I'm just going to remove it into a pan, and nice and crisp, and it's beautiful. I hope you guys try it out tonight. Do send me pictures, and I'm going to show you how to assemble the noodle bowl now.
So I have the noodles and we're gonna add in, so that's a single portion bowl. We add in just the amount of noodles that you want to eat, right? And after that, give it a taste, give the curry a taste and check if you need anything more. I think I tasted it, all the flavors were already there. I can taste the flavors of the vegetables now. It's just lovely. And you just pour in and fill it up with as much of curry that you want. And over this, as I said, you can top it up with roasted peanuts, fried garlic, or fried onions if you want. Peanuts taste great as well. And that's it. And the curry bowl is done. So yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys have any other questions. Yeah. Jasmine, you have a question? All right. I think all are good. Great. So thanks. I hope those of you who cooked along
Hi,
like
Archana.
the, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
I
Pragya,
had not unmuted. Yeah.
Oh, Jasmine. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask what else we can decorate the mousse on the top.
Which one? Chocolate mousse?
Yeah.
You can add, if you like walnuts, you can roast walnuts and add it. You can add praline, like chikki. If you have chikki at home, you can just crush it and add it on top of that to add a nice crunch, which is essentially praline. You can do that. It goes well with chocolate. You can also, of course, whipped cream is always there. Cherries, if you have some fresh cherries, you can stew them a little bit. You can cook them in a little bit of sugar water and then add it on top of that. Cherries go well. Strawberries are not in season now, but strawberry compote, which is essentially you make a quick strawberry chutney. They call it a compote, and then it goes well. Yeah.
Okay. And if we want to add the mango pulp in this chocolate mousse, how do we add?
Yeah. You don't add mango pulp. You can add chopped mangoes, and it'll taste nice.
Then when we add it, add the
just
chopped
before you're
mangoes?
serving, just when you're ready to serve it, when you're ready to eat fresh.
Okay. No, in the mixture, if you want to add the mango chunks,
in
then
the chocolate mousse, so then you add it along with the chocolate. Interesting. I'm not sure chocolate and mango go well if you combine it well inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on top we can add the chopped mangoes and then serve.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Archana, I also wanted to know like when to add the tofu in the noodle bowl. You were actually supposed to mention that.
So when towards the last 5 minutes, 2-3 minutes of simmering, add in the tofu.
Acha, okay. Yeah. So we can add any other form of meat as well. Like we want to add shrimp, then we can just saute some shrimp and add.
Correct. Absolutely. Shrimp.
Okay.
Your chicken. Any other type of fish as well. Prawns. Yeah. You can add all of them. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You can use fish. You can, if you're open to eating meat, you can add fish oil. It really changes and enhances the taste if you get hold of fish oil. Yeah.
Okay.
With spring roll only, this chili sauce will go, no? Any other thing? Any other option? With spring roll?
Spring roll chili sauce will go. You can you can also make like a peanut butter dipping sauce, which is which we usually do with momos, right? So there's a peanut chili sauce, so which is essentially with peanut butter, and you whisk a little bit of that red chili which we made, red chili paste. You add, beat it up with peanut butter, add a little bit of water, vinegar, a little bit of honey, and then mix it up. It'll become like a peanut dipping sauce, and it tastes really nice. So that goes well with this as well. You can eat it just like that as well if you don't want this dipping sauce. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, Archana, I wanted to ask if tofu is not available, can we use paneer? Homemade paneer?
You can use paneer, but paneer is not Asian. It doesn't give that. It'll taste different because paneer is heavy.
It doesn't. So you can try. Definitely, paneer can be added.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Archana?
Yes, Ashi?
Should we fry the tofu before we add it to the sauce, or I can directly add?
No, tofu, paneer, none of them have to be fried at all. I like them to be fresh and soft. Just directly add it. There is no need for frying them at all. No, because they will become rubbery. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you have any recommendation, like what should we look for when we are buying tofu?
So there are different forms of tofu based on what you want to make. I don't know where you are in India. We just get, I think, a single form. If you're somewhere else, you get soft and firm tofus, medium soft. Soft is good. I like soft tofus. It works very well. Firm tofus are more important, work well for satays, where you actually grill them on a pan and you put it in a skewer. So firm tofus are good for that. But for curry basis, soft tofus really work well.
Okay, I'm from Bangalore, so maybe I can
then this is one tofu we get. Yeah. So regular tofu. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. That's good. So I think we are done with questions. Anybody else? I hope you all enjoyed the class. I hope you have a good Saturday night dinner.
Very good. Yeah, Archana, very good concept of doing on Zoom. We missed earlier ones. How do we get that?
We're going to keep having more. So we have a lot of classes lined up for June. So the idea is that, we tackle every cuisine like in India. I'm just going to mute all.
Can we get?
Yeah. Sorry, you have to unmute yourself. I muted all. Yeah. So can you unmute yourself, Pragnya?
Yes.
Yeah.
What I was suggesting, since we have missed earlier good ones, can we have the earlier ones recording on charge basis?
Sure. So let me know. So typically we're going to keep having more classes. Just to be fair, for the people who've already registered, I keep that fairness. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I typically, it's only for the people who are registered. Yeah. So the classes which you have not attended are pretty much only for people who had registered and sort of get that access. So so it becomes very difficult for me to monitor if multiple people request for those videos. But yeah, so.
Okay, Archana, can I ask something, please?
Yes, please. Who's this? Who's this?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. In the noodle bowl, you had given a very watery consistency. So can I make it a little dry version of that?
You could, if you don't want a curry base.
Yeah, my kids don't want. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You can toss it up like a stir-fried noodles as well. Absolutely, you can do that. More wettish and not curryish.
Yeah, in Mama Goto we get that kind of. It's not noodly, but the noodle bowl is quite dry, so I can do it like that. No, if I add
you can do yes, you can do it the similar way. So in the curry sauce that we made, don't add any water to it. Just toss it along with the roasted vegetables and the noodles, and toss it up all on the pan, and it'll taste really nice. Children will also like peanut butter, which mine do. So if you can add a dollop of crunchy peanut butter into it, it will taste really good as well if you are not allergic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. So I will be sharing the video recording for all of you who attended and missed attending or had work-related issues. And we do have many more classes coming up. June has fun classes. The idea is to sort of cook up a meal, understand cuisines, understand flavors, and all of this. So do register for the other classes. We have Mexican coming up. We have in every class we're going to make an appetizer, we're going to make a main course and a dessert as well. So that way we sort of cover various different things when it comes to cooking processes and tastes and flavors too. Mexican is going to be completely Italian, and even Italian is going to be full of completely Italian. And this was like a pseudo-Italian, right? Pseudo-pan fusion. So yeah, so I don't know who's unmuting. Can you all please unmute yourself? Mute yourself. God. Awesome. So great. So I hope you all enjoyed. And then we have a baking session towards the end
where we're going to be on June 27th, where we're going to be doing chocolate chip whole wheat healthier cookies. We're going to be making also a tart, 2 types of tarts. One is a sweet and one is a savory. It's going to be apple pies, which are hand. And I'm going to be working on to see if we can make a puff pastry type tart, which is like an open savory tart. So how do you make like a very quick puff pastry, which is essentially a flaky puff, right? So which you get in the market. But the real puff would sort of take a lot of effort to make, but I'm going to be showing you how to make a quick version of it, which you can make it at home, because in India, you don't get those sheets readily available. But there are a lot of recipes that you can make with it. Just a lot of butter goes into it, right? So that's that. So those are the classes that I've lined up. So do sign up, do share these classes. I hope you enjoyed them. I'm going to be sharing a feedback form to all of you towards the end of the session. Do fill it up. If you've already attended and filled up, I want another feedback to see how the sessions are improving, right? Or anything that I can make your experience much better. So I hope all of you enjoyed and have a good weekend, guys.
It was a very, very enjoyable experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, guys, all of you have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Archana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Archana. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Yes. Bye. Bye.
Bye.